okay, in regard to the brutal trade partner, like Trump said, maybe for Indonesian CPO producer now, European Union is kind of, in some part, like brutal in terms of discriminating Indonesian CPO. And as one of the member of European Union, maybe they want to know, where is the Germany position in this CPO issue? Yeah. Do you think that Indonesia really is a bad biofuel producer? I mean, not environmental friendly?
Well, I had hoped that you might forget this question from your brief.
And then we remember that.
But no, let me say this. Okay, of course, we see that there is an issue. I think what is important is to see where we come from. First of all, let me say that we fully recognize the strategic importance of CPO for the Indonesian economy. It is a very important part of your global exports. For us in the European public, I would say, there is a growing concern about combating of climate change. There is a growing concern about the fact that somehow we are really wrangling with our efforts to reduce CO2 emissions. And of course, the emission balance, if you compare it between the saving in fossil fuels on the one hand and the additional land use that is not only in Indonesia, everywhere, of course, targeted to reach these amounts of biofuel that we want to have, is not very symmetrical. And so there is a growing concern in the European public that we have to do something about this. Let me say this, because before I forget it, I always read this. This is not at all a ban on palm oil. Yes. This is just about the fact that we would like to, we have rules, what measures can be allocated towards our CO2 emission balance sheet. And in this way, the European Union is now enacting legislation, which is not meaning that, you know, there is a ban of any kind. By the way, I mean, there is I don't know, something like 40% of the biofuel use in the European Union is, to my knowledge, if my figures are correct, going into the biofuels. Yes. 60% are going to cosmetics and food, which are not at all affected. Yeah. And if you look at the overall amount of percentage that is then affected in the Indonesian export portfolio, it is not that systemic, I would say. But we have taken note of the concerns. We have, I think, decided in January in the EU and the margins of the EU-ASEAN ministerial meeting in Brussels to establish a working group that will continue to work with Indonesia and Malaysia and see how we can find common ground.
January this year?
This year, in 2019, there was this meeting in Brussels, and so it was decided to establish a joint working group. I think there are a number of other mechanisms where we should work together. One of the things that I would like to also tell you is that there is, of course, like in all pieces of European legislation, there are deadlines on reviews. So there will be a review in 2021, which maybe we can anticipate already a bit earlier, and we can compare, I mean, our data that we have, because I hear very often that experts here in Indonesia, they use different databases, and we have to compare this. But I think it is also important again to say that this the question of how we can reach our CO2 emission levels that we have decided upon in the Paris Agreement is something of growing concern, because more and more countries see that we cannot reach this. And if more and more countries cannot reach this, of course, it will be very difficult to obtain this limitation of the increase of the temperature by 2%. It will be very difficult. So we have to join hands, and all I can say here is to appeal to everybody on both sides that we should really work together and see how we can find common ground. Also, if you allow me a last remark, I say this as an ambassador of a country who is investing a lot of money, funds, into strengthening the sustainability of the palm oil sector here in Indonesia. And I know the same about our British friends, about our Dutch friends and other European countries who are very active in the development cooperation program to make sure that the palm oil produced in Indonesia is sustainable and also meets international sustainability criteria, and therefore is more marketable. So on the long run, I think we are trying to help the sector.